We're live. Hello, everyone watching. Welcome to the SEO news for week 12. That was last week. I've compiled everything of interest in the AI business or SEO, and we're going to go through it today. I have Linus, my co-host, and we're graced with a new presence, another one of my Precis colleagues, Kristina. Welcome. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
She will hopefully
Thank you
bring
for
a lot
having me.
of course, she'll bring a lot of value to this. And I know because the first thing we're going to talk about is the first Precis podcast. And you were on that, right? So can you just kind of sell us that concept?
Yeah, that's not the reason why I'm here today. It's just shameless self-promotion. That's what I mean. I can just
That's
head
fair.
out when I'm done with that. Yeah,
That's why Fred is having this anyway. Shameless self-promotion.
exactly.
Well, we got that on video.
No, but yeah, we did the first connecting the dots episode, which is very exciting, and I was very fortunate to be a part of that. And it's a series that we're going to do at Precis now going forward with different internal experts, me being the first one, and then we have a guest that is like one of our clients or anyone else in the industry. And we talk about all things digital marketing. And for this episode, we were talking about AEO or answer engine optimization or SEO and the future of SEO in the light of AI search engines. So, very interesting topic that we talk about lots internally. But it was really interesting to get one of our clients' perspective and point of view on the work that they're doing internally to kind of shift the focus slightly on how they're working because of AI. So it was myself, like I said, and Lucy Parrott from Bannerflow. She's the head of growth there. So it's really interesting to get her point of view of how they're thinking in this new kind of landscape. And we're obviously at the very cusp of working together with them with AEO. So case study, TBC. But we're starting to work on this and starting to see some interesting results and with the new platforms and reporting that we're using for that. So it's all very exciting times. But yeah, highly recommend watching it if you're interested in just learning a little bit more about how we're starting to think about answer engine optimization.
Agreed. Yeah, I saw it. It was very, very informative. And it's a must read or must watch. So anyone working at Precis, you have to. That's actually by law now. It's a rule. Anyone outside, you should too, or you're going to miss out. And you're going to have serious FOMO. So thank you for that introduction. Go watch it. It's great. Subscribe and like the channel as well, of course. Great. The next one here is so there's some hardcore people who looks into Google patents and then create strategies based on that. I'm not one of them, but I follow the people who do. And this one is really interesting, is how basically Google has a patent for importance threshold score to determine what pages stay indexed. So this is just a LinkedIn post. The link will take you there. But I think, I think it's really a good summary of that patent. Do you have any comments on this? I see something interesting here.
Yeah, I just kind of my takeaway from that was basically that it's a really interesting argument to have with your clients in terms of like updating, reviewing, and updating content. If they're like, well, we have great content, we don't need to worry about this content. We did it like 2 years ago, and it looks great. Obviously, the bar keeps changing. Like all the competitors are creating a lot of content, better content. We need to review the SERPs and see like what do we need to do to keep on working with the content that we have continuously.
Yep.
Get like over that bar,
Yeah, and I think he pointed in the article or the post. He pointed to the crawled, currently not indexed, all those kind of reports, and there's a bunch of guides on those. What is it and why? And I guess it all comes back to quality. Maybe try and update it first, right? Like there's a bunch of things related to that. So you can see those in Search Console, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah. I think also super interesting.
Yeah, sorry.
Super interesting with this as well is how, I mean, crawl budget is not finite either. Like, as Google has to manage the index, and thinking about how many URLs probably get indexed every day, every hour, and how much they're increasing. Like with time you'll probably get less scroll budget per website.
Yep.
Like it'll just become more and more important that you're not having a lot of bad pages like dragging you down.
Yeah. I'm assuming Google controls, like if they have probably have a huge number of like, this is how much we can actually index, because they want to keep their price cost, and then they can grow the cost based on what their revenue is. But overall, it should be a static number, meaning that pool is where we want to be, and it keeps throwing things in and out of it based on some criterias. And they're also updated because of AI content. Everyone can just create a 1,000-word guide now. It's pretty easy. So yeah, definitely worth looking into. I mean, this is just it's a very, very simple post, but it kind of sparks a lot of conversations about strategies. So yeah, I find this super interesting. I'll definitely try and follow this guy on LinkedIn. All right, next up, there's a wrong internal link finder collab tool. That's a really easier to remember name. It's basically a tool to find internal links that points to the wrong page, which is really it's not that easy to, I mean, you could try and match anchor to URL and see, but yeah, it's pretty interesting. I've actually not done those kind of analysis. I always assume internal links are good, and I don't know. Yeah, basically have a look at it, try it out if you think you have clients or websites with this issue. And again, speaking of internal links, how to find internal linking opportunities using the Screaming Frogs Ngram analysis. We just had a workshop here at Precis going through our custom tool using AI to do this. But if you're not a client of Precis, then you can use the Ngram's analysis. Of course, our tool is better, but hey, there's a good guide. You can definitely use this one as well, and it should work really well. We use embeddings, so I think it's a little bit more efficient. The outcomes are quite good. And then, oh yeah, another one of these SEO dead posts is AI search is killing the 10 blue links. This is from The Verge, though, so I think a little bit higher level. A lot more people will read this. I guess I almost slightly agree. Again, SEO is not dead, it's just changing, right? So is there anything, if you even read this article, anything to take away from this? I kind of wrote down some key learnings and insights, but they're all the same. I think we've heard these before, right? So we're just going to move with the tool. I think this big thing is AI mode right now, that I will keep covering in these videos, but it's just a much more conversational search, and everyone's just afraid that Google will rehash our content and not give us any traffic. So I think that's where we kind of have to adapt and figure out where we should be placed in order to get those clicks. Any comments on this?
Yeah, it's my main comment on this. Like, it's really interesting data, really good to have a look at, to just get like that overall view. But my kind of main thought about this is the data on like the fact that users from that are referred by AI search, they tend to stay a lot longer on the site. They browse for longer, more looks through the sites for longer, and lower bounce rate and all that kind of stuff. So it basically tells us that the traffic that we get in from AI search is perhaps you're sent there in a way with so much information that this is the right place to go, and that you will stay there for longer. And I just think that is an interesting takeaway in terms of how we think about how we optimize in the future and how we optimize for why you should optimize for AI search. And maybe like if you work somewhere or have a client where you have difficulty getting that buy-in, those stats are really strong to use.
Perhaps because of the goal of Google is to kind of drive the person to a final purchase or to a place that they cannot accommodate. So, and maybe in the past, people have been doing this poorly. Like, you have an e-commerce, you just write some blog post. You really don't drive people to where they need to be. So people go to the blog post, come back. But now that AI mode might be doing half that job, we end up with people who kind of know what they want, right? After a point, it's like, I know which shoe I actually need. And then you just buy it. Or at least you know where you're supposed to be. So I agree with that. We just need to get that last link. That's or the click, sorry. So that's the important part. Anything on this, Linus, as well?
Not really. I think I feel like we've covered what we can say on this. And I also feel like The Verge writing on this, sure, it's a big publication, but I also feel like they're just riding the fear wave, kind of.
Yeah.
And
yeah. killing. Just putting the word killing is great. Also, a lot of the comments I saw on Twitter when people shared this is, who's reading The Verge? So they're being very nasty on Twitter. They're like, please give us a break.
But I do love the fact that like more mainstream is this being talked about more mainstream. Yes, again, it's easier for us to get buy-in from clients. We really want to push people to start thinking about, shifting their mindset slightly of how we do SEO, than all of these generic conversation and this showing up everywhere, even if it's about SEO dying and whatnot. It's good that we keep on having these discussions so that people understand that things are happening, things are changing. How do we adapt?
Yeah. I think it cements our position as an agency more valuable. Like it's a more valuable position because we're actually at the forefront of this. We're doing these sorts of videos. Clients, I can understand why they don't have internal teams doing that same thing. It's hard. So agencies just becomes more valuable with these changes. If SEO was static, who needs an agency? Great. All right, let's move on to some minor news here a little bit, keeping it cool. Here's a good reminder, using image tags in your sitemap. That might actually be worth trying. There's a bunch of those, and I think it's something we do miss when looking at auditing sites. And it really depends. If you're really, really large e-com and you've got all this data, and some of those images could drive traffic, I think it's worth putting up in the sitemap. Easier and faster indexing of images. Context. It's so much easier for Google to just assign one image to a page if it's a product, and you can choose which one, the best version of that product, the main, instead of sometimes you see the snippet, you get the backside or the underside of the product. That's just not good, right? So here I think you have an opportunity to do this. So just a nice little tip there. Oh yeah, this one is super interesting. I'm actually so you can't see it, guys, but I'm gonna share a screenshot here. So it seems like Google leaked some AI search options beyond AI mode, or at least somebody was able to grab a screenshot of this. It looks like a mistake, but essentially you can go to, when you do a search, there's a little all button, and you get a drop down of images, news, shopping, and there's a lot more options. It seems like something happened here, and it's just a really short article, but basically we can see a lot of these. There's something called Info Sleuth, AI Topics Layer 10. That doesn't look like a final product, so looks like a leak. Why do we
I don't even think this looks like a leak. Like,
it's a mistake.
I think someone just messed up here, and they were like playing around with AI agents, because I don't think a Googler or Google would want a product to be shipped that's called Info Sleuth with an emoji.
No,
it doesn't feel right.
No.
It doesn't feel right.
Again, it could be a mistake that this isn't like we're in labs, we're doing experiments, and then somebody in that beta session just went like, oops, again, not trying to verify here, but why is this important to look at? Well, it's almost like peeking into the next possible Google's rich snippets, right? And then based on that, trying to figure out, well, maybe we should focus on structured data for this because they're working on a snippet for podcast or something like that. This seems like could be an interesting peek into, wait, maybe we should, if they have something specifically for, anything our clients sell, it might be worth looking into. How can we put structured data up on that? Great. Oh yeah. So this one as well, pretty interesting. Google is now testing AI overviews lower on page in the SERPs, so not in the top. So blue links, AI overviews, blue links. Sure, why not? I think it's a good test to see, do people actually want to use it by actually moving it a bit around. So I think it might be Google doing some internal testing, but Google also just seems to tell everyone that AI overviews is great, everybody loves it, which is not true. So I don't trust what Google says anyway. So just worth noting, if you see in the middle of the page, it's just a test. And then, are we geotagging images, guys? I don't think we have. I've never told anyone to do that, honestly. Here's a really cool test showing how it impacted local rankings. And it was mostly down, a few were up. The conclusion here is it's not worth doing. So we can bury that version or that tip, right? Let's just not geotag. It's not worth it unless we've done everything we can in terms of local search, and that's the only thing left. But I love these small tests. People share them on Twitter. It's really nice. So yeah, now we know that.
I used to do this 5 years ago.
Oh yeah. Ouch. No, but see, and these things can be brought back. I feel like some old school techniques are coming back, but the geotagging is interesting, and I just, again, just deprioritize it. But yeah, it did impact
Yeah.
some rankings positively. So, oh, and we've got Gianluca Fiorelli. Finally got his name right. A guide to follow on Twitter, of course. A guide to semantics and how to be visible in search and LLMs. No, a bit of context. I think it was last week or the week before I covered. I think Randy Fishkin really he showcased a short video about him talking with Gianluca. And Randy Fishkin is a lot about getting into the training data for LLMs, etc. Digital PRs was his big thing to get into LLMs, and that's great. And we think the same, but his version here is we can also do this with content strategy. And honestly, what he did is he just made a really scientific and smart, specific way to create topic clusters. I kind of responded to that as well on Twitter. I just said it's a fancy way of doing topic clusters, but his process is very structured. Semantic, NLP, entities. It's a bunch of fancy words, but overall, I just like this because it confirms that, let's look at topic from like a, again, a funnel and a cluster and really combine everything. Let's not just have one guide and that's it. And that's what we are doing. So yeah, just cementing in that this works for LLMs too, and he actually has a case proving it. Any comments to this?
I love the scientific approach to like you say what we already do, but maybe we just talk about it as like topic pillars, like topical authority and clusters and all that kind of stuff. But he really goes into detail about all the different aspects of it, which is very fascinating and interesting. And obviously, you need that kind of background knowledge to then apply what we do. But it's and also nice that he shares an actual case. So yeah, interesting. But yeah, it's a very granular way of thinking about the stuff that we're doing.
A lot of that is done in our minds when we look at keywords and associate topics and starting learning about topics. If we know SEO, so we kind of know what's related to these things and how we can internally link well because we know the topic. And he kind of does that from scratch using, all these kind of analysis and tools. And I think that's good as well. I think he might have overdone it a bit. But that process might also be very standardized and yeah, just a little bit. But it's easy to standardize, and that's what I am interested in is a tool that can do this. So I'm going to follow that and maybe see if I can make something up. Yeah, I'm going to show this to everyone else because I follow Lily Ray, one of the best in the biz, and she's quite sassy, and she's also the best. She's great, by the way. I've seen her in real life, and also really good at calling out Google and how bad they really are. She's a good one for that. And I just like this one because it says Google quality raters are tasked with looking out for AI content, again, with little or no effort or originality. So just people who throw AI content up and they label it as the lowest quality rating. So like even just writing one paragraph, but it's human and has a bit of experience is better than a long guide that apparently they can tell is not original or anything like that. They must be, I don't know how they do that, but that is one thing I didn't know. So that's new information. And then she, of course, somebody else responded. So the only AI content that is okay is the crap Google is putting out in AI overviews, which I find pretty funny and ironic. But Google quality raters, they're tasked with this. So what do you guys think? How do they even know it's unoriginal? How do they even know it's AI generated? I mean,
it seems like a bit of a blanket penalty, just like, oh, this is created by AI, so this is going to be, we're just going to rate it as this shit automatically. But I just think that's it's a way too simplified approach. I can't believe that's actually in practice how it works.
yeah.
But of course, it's good that they're rating really low quality AI auto-generated content that's bad, but you can't just use that as a blanket rule for everything. And that's what worries me.
Yeah. Again, if there is no internal links, no sources, no images, yeah, I guess that is very low quality, right? But then the lowest rating, all right, wow, okay, that's I think it might be a scare tactic. There could be a bunch of reasons why they don't want to have all this content to process as well. I'm not sure. What Google says and what their thought is behind it, a huge gap there.
Yeah. I think there's definitely a bit of scaremongering going on.
Surely. Yeah. Well, we're safe at Precis, I believe. We're doing the best we don't just tell our clients to publish AI content. That's a no-go. So Aleda Sol, it's a speaker deck here from SEO Sydney conference. How to align SEO within the product triangle to get buy-in support. Again, this is actually very top level. I actually shared this with a bit of a outside the SEO group at Precis here. I didn't really go through it, but I thought it was an interesting deck. So if you're missing buy-in, here's a pretty good slide deck from one of the best in the business as well. Then there's a beginner's guide to ranking in local search results. So if you're not us and already know, and you're just a beginner, this is a great guide. Have a look at it. I went through it. I think there's a bunch of it's almost more than beginner level. It's intermediate. So good guide. And then finally, let's finish off with something I found a bit surprising. Word count, sentence count, and whatever flesh score is. I kind of have to Google that. Matters for AI citations, both in LLMs and AI overviews. Now, I had a bit of the impression that shorter, concise content was easier for AI overviews to fetch and cite. But when it comes to LLMs, it seems like word count, sentence count matters. So detailed, long content. I will add that to my list of things because that was not one of them. And this is based on analysis. So pretty interesting. Again, that doesn't mean we should just make things longer for longer's sake. But it might be a good criteria for things are being more detailed, covering the subject better. So it makes sense in the larger scheme of things. But yeah, do you have any thoughts on this?
I think it makes tons of sense, actually. That longer word count makes it like more quotable, because if you think about the like embeddings and the cosine similarity with this, it very much increases, and the available interpretations of 3 questions, whether those are in separate articles or in one article, like they'll probably be more interrelated if they're in the same article. I think it makes a lot of sense from that point.
Yep.
And I think this also, me and Kristina talked about this some while back, but category pages, probably in the future of that, is that they tell the entire story. Like you have, you include all the content on the category pages, and like everything is on the category page, so it becomes like a massive standalone hub page, kind of like how Apple does it. And I think this might be something like an indicator on this as well.
Fulfilling every possible intent on one page. You mean that might
Not
need some cycling?
Necessarily. No, not necessarily.
Yeah.
Like not including everything, but making, like, instead of having articles to support the category page, you could make the category tell the entire story. Kind of.
Yeah, it's about creating like really strong like pillar page. And if that's a category page, that might be the case, so it might be a different kind of page. But it's just creating like in like this case, like long form but relevant content that is very accessible, marked up, high readability, that just creates that relevance for the content. That's it goes hand in hand with what we were discussing earlier with the entities, and I also think it makes perfect sense, to be honest.
Yeah, good. Yeah, again, those pillar pages are just what I usually tell people is they're really good for those generic keywords where you use cooler. Well, what do you want? What type of cooler do you want to know? What do you want to buy one? Do you want information? Well, this page kind of gives you everything, or at least links to it. And they tend to rank well for those generic keywords. And yeah, I agree as well when looking at, if I have a slide deck on like educational slide deck, if I just give it all the text to ChatGPT, it gives me a summary. That's pretty good. If I give it the transcript, which has a lot more variance, nuance, we talk about everything, that becomes a lot better. The output becomes better. And so why wouldn't you choose the longer version? when doing it. If I had to program something, I would probably do it. So, but is the longer version better? That's the question. But it has more to work with, right? It has more to work with,
Yeah.
and then it'll figure it out itself. So, good. We have that on the list as well. And that was it for the news. Thank you, everyone listening. Thank you, Kristina. Thank you, Linus. If you think this is useful, like and subscribe. If you don't like it, don't tell me in the comments, please. Just leave it alone. And yeah, everyone have a lovely day, and I will see you next week.
Bye.